Hello to all you subbies, slaves, sissies, pets, masters, mistresses, doms, dames, goddesses, and yes, even you vanilla folks that are listening in. Welcome to BDSM You, your weekly informational BDSM podcast. And as well, welcome to part 2 of our BDSM Glossary. This week we are going from N to Z. And let's start with a little thing called needleplay. And needleplay is basically a temporary piercing done with sterile needles of varying gauges. Usually this is only done for scenes and can quickly be removed and thrown away. Nose torture. Now this is a traditionally Japanese form of BDSM, and it often involves nose hooks, basically holding the nose up and away from the face. Neotamari is a human sushi platter role play. Now, this is basically where a man or woman lays naked upon a table and has sushi eaten off of their bodies. It's very uncommon, but I have seen it once or twice, and it's very sensual. OTK is short form for over the knee, which is a standard form of spanking or punishment for some subs. Now, a pain slut is a person that enjoys receiving a heavy degree of pain from hits, but may or may not enjoy submitting to their owner or dom. Paraphilia is a biomedical term used for describing a person's sexual arousal to objects, situations, or individuals that are not part of the normative stimulation. And this may cause distress or serious problems for the paraphiliac or persons involved with him or her. A paraphilia is basically a condition involving sex fetishes where a person's sexual arousal and gratification depend on fantasizing about and engaging in sexual behavior that is atypical and extreme, which can include non-human objects, the humiliation or suffering of oneself or one's partner, animals, children, and non-consenting persons. Now, this is a rare instance, but it does happen, so it is something to watch out for because these people are just a bit off their rocker. Now, a play party is also known as a fete, and it is basically a BDSM event involving many people engaging in play scenes, such as whipping, flogging, anal play, etc. It depends on the play party you go to, but there are many different forms of play at each play party. Pro-dom or pro-dame is basically a professional male or female dominant that charges money for play or punishment. Now, many people do this for a living, and I have nothing against that. Whatever floats your boat, that's great. But I don't technically consider it myself as true domination if you're taking someone's money. But that's just my opinion, to each their own. Pony girls and pony boys are basically subs that are dressed in a rubber, latex, leather, or even PVC pony outfit with mouth bits and anal plug tails and pony boots that are taught to prance, run, and generally behave like a pony would. Basically, some are used as means of transportation with a pony-led buggy to take dominance where they need to go. Now, this style of training can take months or even years to perfect. The boots alone take a lot of getting used to because they are heelless and can go upwards of 8 inches high. And trust me when I say that is not easy to walk in. Alright, next up we have puppy play, which is basically the submissive is made to act like a puppy. The sub barks, whines, eats from a bowl, and generally does everything a dog would. Such play is sexual, but also focuses on the altered state of mind of the submissive and the dominance of their trainer/owner. Some DOMs use hypnotherapy to help a submissive become more puppy-like. This is a standard practice and doesn't really affect the sub's mind unless they really want it to. Now, RACK, which is R-A-C-K, is a short form for Risk-Aware Consensual Kink. This is a term basically used to keep aware of the risks inherent by playing with others and to make sure play is always agreed upon by both parties before starting. Then we come to rape fantasy. Now, rape fantasy is basically the fantasy of inflicting or being a victim to an act of consensual play rape. This act can be stopped at any time by use of a safe word. Sadism is the act of inflicting pain on yourself or others. A sadist is a person that likes to inflict pain on people in a sexual manner. Now coming to safe word. Now, a safe word, when a submissive utters the chosen safe word, BDSM play will stop. It must stop. If it does not stop, it's not a good thing. A safe word is a safety measure to make sure the submissive doesn't get hurt and has a way out of the situation if things get too intense for them during play. And a safe word must always be obeyed. If you ever see someone like a Dom-A or Dom ignoring a safe word, report it to the DM immediately. Now, this is a rarity, but it's for some. Scat play is basically, this is the act of playing with feces. There are many health risks involved, and it truly is not recommended, and it is also not something very many do for good reason. But I thought I'd at least throw it in to the glossary, because some people do it. Sensation play is a form of BDSM play where the intent is to push people's sensory limits, thus exploring texture, sensory deprivation, through on to whips, flagellation, and edge play. Service-oriented submission is basically a person that enjoys performing a service in a sexual or BDSM environment. These can be basically domestic subs that like to cook and clean, or subs that act like human furniture, and more. A slave is a person who has consensually given up control of one or more aspects of their life to their dominant. The common misconception here is that slaves do not have rights. They do indeed have rights. No matter what anyone else says, a slave does have rights. Soft limits are something that someone is hesitant to do or nervous to try. They can sometimes be talked into the activity, or it may be negotiated at a beginner level for a scene, but it generally will be talked about first before doing it. A sub-drop is a physical condition, often with cold or flu-like symptoms, experienced by a sub after an intense session of play. This can basically last for as long as a week and is best prevented by aftercare immediately after the play session ends. A submissive is, or a sub for short, is a person that gives up total or partial control either all the time or for a specific period. Like slaves, subs have rights and can say no to anything they do not agree with or wish to partake in. Always remember that. Subspace is a natural high that a sub or slave gets. During a scene or when being controlled, the sub may feel disconnected from time, space, or even their body. It's kind of like a feeling of floating. And it may have a sub may have limited ability to properly communicate their feelings or their wants or needs. In this case, it is critical that a dominant take responsibility of the sub's well-being. If they are in subspace, as the sub will basically have no control over themselves for an extended period of time that can last for minutes to hours, depending on the sub. A switch is someone that likes being both top and bottom. They can usually switch back and forth from sub to dom, from scene to scene, or on different occasions. This is basically a very normal practice in the BDSM community, as some just like having it both ways, and all the power to them. Taken in hand is a 24/7 male dominance in a monogamous marriage, or with or without BDSM aspects included. Tease and denial is basically the act of keeping someone aroused while delaying or preventing resolution to keep them in a state of anticipatory tension, inner conflict, and heightened sensitivity. And quite frankly, it is a lot of fun to have your senses so conflicted at times. Tit torture is the act of causing deliberate pain to the breasts and nipples by use of pegs, weights, hooks, books, and more. Now, I can't recommend this for everyone because the nipples and breasts are a very sensitive part of one's body, but if you're able to do it, it is a lot of fun. A top is a person that does the action, not to be confused with a dom, that is the person that puts the scene together. A dom can enjoy a certain scene and tell the bottom what they are to do. In this case, the sub is the top, following the dom's instructions, and the bottom is the dom getting attention from the top, which leads us to topping from the bottom, which is the act of a bottom who purports to be a submissive, but who nonetheless wants to direct the top. TPE is short for total power exchange. It is a relationship where the dom has total power and complete authority over the submissive's life, making the majority of their decisions. Training basically refers to a short period of time, a scene, or an ongoing effort by the dominant to teach the submissive how to act, basically. And this can take months to years, and it really depends on the sub, but it is generally worth it to be trained and know what you're doing before getting into any BDSM relationship. Vanilla is basically a term used to describe someone who is not in the BDSM lifestyle. Basically anyone who does not practice BDSM or does not live the lifestyle. And it can be sometimes used in a derogatory manner. Wax play, and last and certainly not least, is wax play, which is an act of a dominant dripping hot wax on the sub's body. And believe me when I say many people enjoy this form of play. It is a lot of fun, and it feels really good at times. So that brings us to the end of our first part of our BDSM glossary. I'm sure you're saying, but Jim, you've forgotten some stuff. Yes, there was some stuff left out, and we will get back to that in a few weeks. But next week's episode, we will be discussing drug and alcohol abuse, as well as sexual health, HIV, hepatitis, and other STIs. We will see you next week, and be sure to pick up the BDSM You book, available now for $10. $5 of every purchase goes to the Canadian AIDS Society. We'll see you next week.